Excellence in our industry comes from quality teams creating quality products. In an industry that's constantly evolving, it's your unwavering grit, determination, and passion that drives innovation and elevates standards to new heights. As brewers ourselves, we know what that passion looks like. It's the drive to create something exceptional, fueled by dedication and love for the craft. As a stainless steel equipment manufacturer for over 10 years, ABS Commercial provides a full consultative approach to our customers, from consultation and design to installation and ongoing care and maintenance. Whether you're in planning, just getting started, or looking to expand, we're here to support your growth and your success. Thank you for choosing ABS Commercial as your trusted partner.
Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, happy tomorrow if you're watching this later. Welcome to our talk. We're excited to run through this or have this conversation today with you all. So my name's Harrison. I have Alex along with me as well. We'll introduce ourselves in more detail in a moment, but we are going to be talking about brewing better lives with technology today, which is something that's near and dear to both our hearts as we've been in this industry for a while. So some quick kind of specifics on myself. So today I'm not wearing the great shirt I have in this photo, but I'll forgive myself. You guys will too. But my name's Harrison Hickok. So boy, the highlights here. Won't do the whole story. Originally from New England, currently in lovely Wilmington, North Carolina, but kind of spent the better part of 7 years working in breweries from New England down through Philadelphia, kind of doing everything, different size breweries. I was in a brew pub that had been around for 25 years when I started. I was in worked for a brewery that was only a year old. After that, a lot of growth and growing pains and excitement there, and then moved on to a kind of a regional brewery outside of Philadelphia, which was a completely different experience than a startup and an older established brew pub. So got to see a lot of different kinds of breweries and different people, different parts of the industry. But ever since leaving brewing about 8 years ago, I've been working for Next Glass. So that's Ollie's parent company, talking about all sorts of things, all of our technology from Ollie to Untapped, Osner, used to host a podcast. So yeah, a little bit about me and first craft beer, Dogfish Head's April Hop. Still think about that, miss it. It comes back every once in a while, but that was a mind blowing experience for me. So those are some highlights. I'll let Alex introduce himself as well, and then we'll jump into it.
Yeah, thanks, Harrison. Hey, y'all. My name is Alex Labange. I'm excited to be speaking here today. I guess since I created the slide little life update, I'm now the proud father of a 2-week-old baby girl. So sleep
Right.
has been questionable at best. So please bear with me as we go along here today. Quick background: I'm a North Carolinian through and through. Grew up in Greensboro, spent many years in Wilmington, and then my wife and I have been in the Charlotte area for about 4 years now. Former college swimmer, love the outdoors, and on the weekends you can find me by a grill or a smoker with some barbecue, and then cheering on my dreadful Carolina Panthers. Yeah, we'll get better someday. I also started with Next Class same day as Harrison over 8 years ago, back in 2016, and since then spent a lot of time with a number of our different products, including Untapped for Business, Data and Insights, studying different consumption trends, and most recently working with our ERP system, Ollie. I think I have a fairly unique background as I didn't come necessarily from a brewery, but over the past few years, I have had thousands of conversations with bar, brewery, and restaurant owners in over 6 continents, and I bring that knowledge and unique experience with me here today.
Yes, you do. Yes, lots of Alex and I spent a lot of late nights in the early years talking to people in New Zealand and Australia about beer and technology and stuff, which was a lot of fun. Early for them to talk about beer in the morning, but that was beer o'clock for us. Okay, cool. So today, quick little kind of breakdown of the agenda, and then I'm going to jump through kind of some high level stuff so we can really establish what we're going to be talking about for the rest of the call today, and then I'll pass it off to Alex, and he's going to kind of run into some more in-depth examples and walk through a couple of things. But to start, we're going to talk kind of about what technology itself, some mental health numbers that are pretty recent, so it kind of shed some light on why is this important? Why, as either a business owner, a director of operations, as someone who works at a brewery, like where does mental health kind of fit in the larger landscape of my business? Why should I be paying attention to this beyond maybe the obvious? And then we'll kind of talk about different ways to address, and improve folks' mental health. Um, and really focus on kind of how we think you should be thinking about it as business owners. So like, what's the right fit for you? What are some characteristics of good technology or software? What about bad ones? Again, how will this impact the mental health of my team, myself, my family when I go home at the end of the day and I'm less grumpy, if I've chosen the right solution to take some mental load off myself. And again, we'll kind of run through some examples, but we'll start um, with some numbers. So, or some technology itself. So let's actually start right here. So to define technology. So again, what do we mean by that? Obviously, like tech is a lot of different things. A tennis shoe is technically technology. So is a satellite dish. Radio Shack used to sell a lot of technology, but now they don't even exist. So obviously, technology or tools are always things humans are using to, in theory, improve their life. World was pretty dark before fire, and then fire happened, and the rest is kind of history. That would be a pretty important piece of technology. So today, though, we're not going to talk about what we were doing in caves 100,000 years ago. We're going to talk about what's going on now and really focus on software itself. And so I think a great way, of kind of level setting or good baseline to get out there and start the conversation around is that most software, they're really just like input systems at their core. And so it's most of the time up to the user if it really becomes useful or not, to kind of get out of it what you put into it. Certainly, I'm talking about again things like ERPs, but really, if you have no photo on your Facebook page and no cover photo and no posts, that's pretty boring. But that's not Facebook's fault. It's like the old joke about saying, "Man, Subway sandwiches are horrible. You made the sandwich. You told them what to put in the sandwich." That's not on Subway. Um, so again, it's a large input system. So choosing the right one, what you put into it, how you think about it, that's where it all begins. And then obviously, if it doesn't work well, that's a different problem. But looking at it as an input system is a great way to approach these things. So you're not expecting too much. You're not having expectations that are too high for the technology, and maybe setting yourself up for a less than successful, experience with it. So um, now, okay, how do we do that? So really, I think first of all, you have to be intentional when you're looking at software, and we'll dive into a lot of examples. But again, I'm going to kind of set us up for that right now. So like an easy one and a good again like I guess rubric to use here is like first principle thinking. So like trying to boil things down into is the question I actually have, and addressing it from the ground up. So easy ways to do that for software is asking kind of maybe even what would be quote unquote obvious questions like, is this built for our industry? Am I trying to use, a piece of software that Boeing uses in airplane manufacturing? Like, that's probably not for me, and the brew pub that I own. Is it right for your size business? So even if you get into, okay, I'm looking at stuff built for the brewing industry, again, is this system that I'm looking at, whether it's again a POS, something to deal with your payroll, an ERP, which something Alex and I are really familiar with. Like, is this something built for my sized business? And this is a big one, and we're going to kind of talk about this crossroads probably a lot today. Are my employees tech savvy? So I kind of set this up a minute ago. The technology is a part of this, kind of how you introduce it, um, understanding kind of how tech savvy you are, your employees are. All that stuff is really important. There are tech solutions for every level of kind of um, technical proficiency out there. But again, it's kind of having that self realization of like, am I an expert that can code sweet, I could probably look at different things than somebody who this is their first business, maybe retired, did not use computers every day, not trying to start now, did not retire to get more headaches about something I don't understand. There's probably a different solution out there for you that could still be tech based. And even if that tech is pen and paper on a clipboard. But again, just kind of understanding that, being self aware and aware of what your employees want to do, like to do, all that stuff. Another really kind of big piece here is looking for complete solutions, not piecemeal ones. So I'll have kind of example of this in a minute, but it goes back to that first principle thinking. So like, what is my problem? If you are walking around, walk into the brewery in the cellar, and you say, "Oh my gosh, the team's always cleaning the wrong tanks. What's going on here?" The wrong tanks getting cleaned is not the problem. That's what we would call a lagging indicator. So the wrong takes being cleaned is a result of your problem. The problem is going to be communication. So that's the first principle problem in this example. Um, so, if you went online and tried to solve for, get team to clean tanks better because you thought that was your problem, you would just get ads for different cleaning solutions for your tanks. But if you take that moment, kind of do some problem solving and assess, okay, yes, the tanks are not getting clean. They need to get clean, but that's not the problem. Team communication is the problem. Start Googling that. Maybe you'll start finding solutions that way. So again, identifying that problem, it's crucial. We need to be not piecemeal about it um, by identifying the correct problem that will help you find a kind of a wholesale solution instead of maybe trying to solve a piece of a larger problem, because haven't done the exercise of really identifying, drilling down on what the problem is. Research and referrals, that's huge. We'll talk about that today. I mean, and it's all about who you pick. Same kind of brewery, same size, same business type, same region, kind of thinking about these things when you're looking at technology and then trying to vet that technology, vet that software, make sure you're talking to breweries that are using it, have the same use case as you. And then again, I mentioned this a moment ago, but new tech. So tech part of this. These companies that you're speaking to have training. You are going to have to, and your team, adopt new SOPs for this. Are they going to be bought in or not? What can you do to make that easier for folks? Um, Training again is huge. If the companies you're speaking to are offering that, it's gigantic. It's often if you are a director of ops, a business owner, somebody who's that kind of decision has fallen on you to figure out what kind of technology am I using, and you're worried about either the folks you have to report to or your team maybe not being bought in, but you see that this is going to improve the business. Ask the salesperson that you're talking to, how can I sell other people on this? I love it. It'll make my life easier. It'll get us the numbers that ownership wants or our accountants want. But I'm worried about adoption. I know for us personally, we hear that a lot and have kind of plans in place where if folks with clipboards and pen and paper for a bit, we can kind of um, easily transition into the digital solution that is Ollie, when they're ready. So that kind of stuff, being aware of what's actually happening, what folks need to be successful. It's part of this. The tech is part of it, but again, getting everybody bought in is part of it too. Okay, I think we're ready for this one. Perfect. Okay, so good and the bad. So I'm talking a lot about technology, and technology is great, or I guess I maybe doing an okay job of level setting that some of it's not the best, but we should probably talk about that in more detail. That not all technology is the best thing ever. There obviously are plenty that isn't great. I mean, you could argue, as many people have, that social media is kind of in this weird gray area right now. I know my parents would say video games are bad, or they used to. Wrong. But doom scrolling, that's not helpful for anybody. I get a crack out of the skip button. So if you're a fan of vinyl records and things like that, I was listening to some with my kids the other day, and they were like, "How do you skip to the next song if you don't want to hear this one?" And I had to chuckle and be like, "That is not a thing. That was not a thing." And the invention of the skip button destroy music as we know it? I won't get on a soapbox, but used to be all these great albums, and now they're all these singles, and the all killer no filler days, maybe they're not behind us. I'm not going to sound not that old. But anyway, so technology, maybe not the best, but some are, obviously is wonderful. And again, tech is a big, broad umbrella here, but zeroing in on some of the stuff we see kind of on the software side, things like smart homes, security camera systems. I mean, when growing up, it was like a whole to do of having, you wanted to have like ADT come out to your house, install cameras, and they got to drill through your wall, and they're strangers in your house. And then if something happens, you got to grab the landline and call somebody for help. Like that's not what it's like now, right? I go on Amazon and buy 10 cameras in 5 minutes and have more security than Fort Knox here that I can all manage from my phone. It's a great peace of mind. Workout apps, that's another one. It's wonderful that my phone can say, hey man, get up and go move yourself because you've been sitting for way too long. Awesome reminder, because it's easy to get lost in this technology, every single day. But for businesses, zeroing in on that, for breweries, like accounting software, PTO apps, it's wonderful if you have or are looking into one of those where it's easy for employees to say, hey, I want to take some time off instead of having to walk into the office, or you know do something do it another way where maybe there's a couple barriers to getting there, or it's tough to organize. I mean, you don't want everybody taking off the day before Christmas Eve because then no one's there to package and brew. So kind of, and then that's stressful. And now you're telling people, hey, I know that you could take it off, but you couldn't because I messed up. Having things organized PTO is great, and having that be upfront is great for everyone's mental health and clarity communication. Mental health apps, nap pods, the jury's out there. But the point is, technology works when it's solving problems, not creating more of them. So that's a big thing too that Alex and I talk about a lot. That if you're feeling like, if you're talking to someone about a new piece of software, a new piece of technology, and it feels like it's adding things to your list and it's going to make your life more complicated and not less complicated, that's probably a bad sign. That's not how technology should work. It should be saving you time. It should be making life easier if it's intentionally built, if it's built for your business. And again, kind of the expectations are set of what this can do and can't do, what problems can it solve and can't it solve. Um, Okay, cool. So I have a quick example. I'm going to pass this off to Alex to run through even more. Uh, we'll start with kind of team communication. So I ran through this a minute ago, but we'll go through it in a little more detail, kind of about identifying the correct problem, but also actually, so this is kind of taking that example of identifying the problem to the next level. So if you've identified that, okay, team communication is not great at the brewery right now. Again, people are texting in the morning because they don't know what beer they're supposed to brew, or wrong tanks are not getting cleaned. Someone double dry hopped a beer. The one's supposed to be double dry hop because the whiteboard that had what was dry hopped and not got bumped into and partially erased. So someone didn't know it was already dry hopped, which happened to me in a brewery I was in once. Things like that. So let's take that to the next level. Try to solve it one way by picking something that's not the best solution, and then I'll show you kind of an example of another way to think about the problem that ends up landing on a better solution. So again, example, you're having trouble making sure everyone on the brew team checks the group text for each brew day to note any changes. Solution you decide is you're going to sign up to a generic kind of instant messaging system like Slack or whatever, hoping this solves the problem. The actual result, though, is that now you have some employees using the group text still who aren't adapting or adopting to this new technology. Some use the new system that figured out how to set it up themselves correctly. Some people still operate out of email because maybe they're on the sales team, and that's where they interface with customers, so that's where they prefer to interact with for all information. Maybe the accountants always do that. So because their core function is in another system. Also, you learn that the instant message company you went with doesn't support beer XML files. So one of the use cases you were hoping to solve for was, I want to be able to, as head brewer, send a new recipe into this instant message app to whoever's brewing that day so they get it. Oh my gosh, the one we picked can't even handle the beer XML and punching out a beersmith. So holy crow, this is all different kinds of bad. And the obvious conclusion, by choosing the wrong tech solution and also not being clear about the new kind of SOPs and expectations for your team, communication issues actually become worse. It becomes frustrating, and now everyone's saying, "Dang, this technology, this thing's dumb, this stinks, this doesn't work." When in reality, it never was going to. It was the wrong choice, the wrong input system, um, and so on. So let's take that same example and look at what could happen if we kind of go down a different path. And the reality is, this happens. You kind of, no one's 100% correct all the time, of course. So sometimes it is kind of picking and choosing, figuring things out as you go. So this is attempt number 2. So again, you're still having the example, the trouble making sure everyone on the brew team checks group checks before brew day. Okay, solution. So you sign up instead to a beer scheduling and task manager to keep all duties centralized, and you wait to launch it until everyone is trained on it. So instead of launching early and then creating kind of confusion about how do I sign in? How do I look at this? What does this mean? I deleted a thing. Did I break it? Nope. Don't put the cart before the horse. We'll launch this thing correctly. And the actual result is with these new SOPs in place and training, the last minute text messages decrease kind of by themselves as the brew team's habits change, because now they're just going and checking the scheduler first. That becomes your universal source of truth for what's actually brewing that day. Um, by getting the team bought into the correct solution, the stress goes down, employee retention and productivity goes up. So again, that's kind of an easy example to start with. I'm going to pass this off to Alex now to dive into even more examples about how, again, like using technology, using this software can pull back some of the stress that your team, ownership is experiencing.
Awesome. So let's start off and talk about some growing pains. One spreadsheet easily becomes 10 spreadsheets. I love this quote to start off with. Make sure the runway is built before you try and land the plane. The idea here is to have a solution before you need one in a really dire situation. Growth is great, but it comes with a whole new set of problems. 1 or 2 spreadsheets can be manageable to start with, but please be careful. Sometimes you blink and those spreadsheets multiply and morph into 10. And with more spreadsheets, of course, that comes with more error, compound complexity, and can take exponentially longer to fix as we go along. Speaking for myself and maybe some others here, a lot of us didn't get into this industry because we love working with spreadsheets and are really great at building them, sometimes the exact opposite. And with all these new problems of growth, trying to solve them one by one can ultimately lead to more problems down the road. In our experience, Harrison mentioned this before, but wholesale solutions really can be best. What I mean by that is it could be better to have an end-to-end solution set up and to grow into it as opposed to adding pieces along the way. Having a full solution leads to less disruptions and time to add new pieces later. The staff can be trained in the process as a whole, leading to better comprehension, better accuracy, and better implementation. This can allow the focus to be purely on the growth. You can help capture that data along the way. Multiple systems integrate together, but be wary. All need to be working properly, and a small error with data in one can have a compounding effect. We'll explore this in a little bit further as well. Now, let's talk about ERPs for a moment. What is an ERP and why use one? ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. It's a type of software that helps businesses manage their core processes in a single system, and they're used across all industries, and not just the beer world. People oftentimes hear the word enterprise and think expensive, but it doesn't always have to be true. They come in all shapes and sizes, and they're used by businesses with 1, 10, 100, 1,000 employees. And from the brewery side of things, they're not just for large breweries. They can really take a lot of work and make it manageable by just a couple set of hands or a single pair. In business, I'd say it's universally recognized that if you produce something, you really need to know how much it costs to produce. Having software can really help answer this question efficiently and relatively pain-free. Some things to consider: what are your raw material costs versus what are those landed costs? How is that changing over time? What can I do to help drive these costs down? A lot of ERPs will let you see the details at a moment's notice. They can help your team to identify issues immediately with the data and not with hours of manual searching. Ultimately, it's your business and your data. Let's let it work for you along the way as well. Now, double your work digitizing your brew logs. With the old process, traditionally, pen and paper have been used in breweries ever since the beginning, but why can't we digitize this and take a step in a modern direction? In today's environment, like it or not, staff are always on their phone, they're using tablets, so why can't this just be applied to the brew house as well? Without an ERP or other systems, a lot of the time data is taken from the paper brew log and then painstakingly entered into a spreadsheet at the end of the day. We know brew houses are dynamic. Paper gets wet, it's really hard to read, things get blotched, numbers get fuzzy. The team is tired at the end of the day logging all these details, and it can be sometimes the last thing that they want to do. They just want to get out of there. A new process could be using the tech in your pocket to log all these different pieces of data in real time. Save an hour or two at the end of the day as opposed to having to go and sit at the computer and do it all again. This can cut back on all sorts of different mistakes and inaccuracies, leading to a more efficient and a happier staff. They might get off a little bit early. Plus, leadership can go in and see the data in real time and solve problems on the fly as they arise instead of hours, if not days afterward. Plus, all this data can be used instantly in all sorts of other parts of the system and businesses. Used ingredients are going to be depleted from your inventory, so those totals are correct already. Production totals, what you're making is being added to different reports so you can fill out taxes and save hours. Forecasters are being updated. That list really goes on and on and on. Now, let's talk about forecasters, order efficiency, and cost visibility. It may seem a little obvious here, but you really need the appropriate raw materials and packaging materials to successfully produce a beer. This is vital, but it doesn't have to take hours and hours to complete. Using tools to understand your projected cost before brewing can really help make your valuable decisions of, is this juice really worth the squeeze for this batch? And then also consider different things like for the beer, what do I need to do with it to hit my required operating margins? Should it be kept and sold in-house, or should I potentially expand it and send it out to distribution? Ultimately, when forecasting out raw materials, traditionally we spend hours looking at each upcoming batch, adding the ingredients together, cross-referencing the amount with our manual inventory counts. The process goes on and repeats forever. Or using some technology, forecasters can help do all of this for you in just a split second. You can instantly know your ingredient levels, get your purchase orders out to the appropriate vendors, and have clear visibility into when you're going to run out of each material. Save yourself from rush shipping and these out of stocks and just absolute killers to the business. Those delays, they trickle down and touch many parts of the brewery and ultimately cost you money. With all this, we can help know your inventory counts at all time. Also, save your back. Avoid relying on the, hey, go out back and see what we have, see if we have enough. Not a really sustainable way to be able to run things. With that as well, by doing all these different pieces in software, lot tracking, super important. That's all happening automatically with an ERP. You can see what ingredients are being used in what batch, where these finished goods are going, and also solve problems like using your oldest inventory first and have that clearly logged. You can, in the sad event, if you have to do a recall based on some bad ingredients, quickly identify what batches were going to be affected. This is an enormous stress around breweries when it happens, and we can drastically tone this down just by having a clear path in the software by just using it effectively. Also, understanding our landed costs. This can be done in spreadsheets, but it's incredibly difficult and very time consuming. ERPs can really help do this for you instantly. Plus, these costs are really important in understanding your COGS. Now, speaking of COGS, talking about real-time COGS calculations, I talk to brewers all the time, and a question I like to begin with a lot is if they know their cost of goods sold. And the answers are all over the place. Some do them quarterly, others yearly, a lot of other ones not at all. Taking the time to do these by hands it's painstaking, and also how long is this work going to be accurate? With ingredients and utility costs fluctuating all over the place these days, what might be right one week might be vastly off the next. Using an ERP and technology can help you act immediately when your numbers are off, and don't let these problems fester and affect other areas of the business. You can have that visibility into the cause and then immediately take action. And then ultimately price your products more accurately because of it. This can only lead to better margins and more money in your pocket. And let's face it, the shelves are really full and crowded with competitors these days. We want to turn your COGS into an asset and help you price as competitively as you can as well. All right, Let's talk about depletion reports and packaging splits for a moment. I can't recommend using reports like this enough to help eliminate all these different headaches that come. What are some packaging woes that we hear? Maybe expired inventory, not getting through it all, limits in storage space these days, extra facilities can be a lot of expensive, adding new coolers, not enough materials for these different runs. All of these can lead to delays, wasted beer, and ultimately lost money. Having a delay in packaging by a single day can throw all sorts of different things off and have huge compounding effects. You can't move beer out of the tank, you can't start the next one, so on and so forth. Everything gets backed up. ERPs, a lot of them have different reports that can help with this, and depletion reports are a great tool as well. They really can help us look at all of our past decisions, all that past data, and be able to act on it in the future with those powerful decisions. We can rely on that historical information and really turn those packaging splits from a shot in the dark, which can be a liability a lot of the times, into an asset for the brewery. Now, the chart on the right here is just a partial example of a depletion report found in Ollie Order, a system that we're very, very familiar with. We can use this data to see my projected amount of months remaining of that different inventory, look at each different product type, package type, and then see how much time I have left to project it. Then we can use this to get those splits correctly and focus where it's needed as opposed to guessing. And then this data will give you the confidence to be able to make these decisions. And then make sure you always plan well in advance, have the materials that you need as well. Also, there's going to be the added benefit of a more informed sales team. They know exactly what they can work with, what they can sell. They can have the confidence. They can do it correctly the first time and not have to worry about going back to customers, changing those different orders, having to follow through on different commitments. All these different things can be alleviated by just looking at your historicals and having all of that clearly laid out. Protecting your IP from staff turnover. I've heard a bunch of different horror stories recently of breweries essentially needing to start over due to losing their information. And it might not be traditionally how you think. Now, trust me, there's nothing wrong with a brewer being old-fashioned, loving to have everything on pen and paper, but let's think worst case scenario. What happens if he or she leaves? What happens if there's an unexpected tragedy and all that knowledge is lost from that one person? Also, maybe a falling out happens. Business relationships aren't perfect. Losing your recipes and IP can be an absolute business killer. For sales and distribution, business contracts, bar managers, beer buyers, these connections can be worth their weight in gold, especially if you're doing self-distro. Sales reps, they can be amazing assets to breweries and expand growth. But if their notes are on a notebook and they're not shared with you, that can all be gone in an instant. These relationships take weeks, months, even years to curate. And a lot of ERPs like Ollie and other ones, you can have all that information visible and easily accessible and there for your whole team, solve all these different issues. An ERP with a CRM can solve all of this. You have different parts of your business that are insured for numerous different reasons. Think about you're protecting your data as insurance as well in case something happens. It can be the lifeblood of your business. And if it just walks out the door one day, you have to protect it. You'll have that peace of mind in case something happens. Also, slight pro tip here, if you're looking at multiple different pieces of software or switching current software, always ask about exporting your data before you decide to terminate your contract. Take that one piece of stress off of your plate so you'll always know that you'll have it if you need it. Harrison, you want to jump back in?
That's it. All right. Thank you for all that, Alex. Yeah, I'll pop in here and then let you take us home. So we'll finish on the thing nobody wants to think about, audits and QC QA issues. So we're saving the best for last, if you will. So prepare your umbrella before it rains. That's the kind of adage that comes to mind for me whenever I think about things like this. Obviously, audits, QC problems, they could be a huge threat of mental health, not to mention, the bottom line in your business. So for audits, again, if you have an ERP that's built for breweries, it's all logged in there. You don't have to worry about the TTB coming knocking. Yes, it's annoying, but you can easily say, yeah, here's 900 PDFs of what you want. Go sort it out on your own time. I've got a business to run, and send them on their way to go do some reading. For QC and QA, so like that's again something nobody ever wants to think about. As Alex mentioned a moment ago, infected keg, infected batch, infected super sack of grain. But it happens. So under that umbrella, So two quick kind of case studies that we have on how technology immediately took what was a really stressful situation for our customers and made it less so. First one is an infected grains house. So we did have a brewery that we work with that had a whole silo of pale malt that was ended up being infected. Now, obviously, it's easy if you have an ERP or not to look at the invoice of that grain and say, okay, it costs us this much money, so we need at least this. But that's not obviously all the damage that's been done. If you've used that grain, it's in a bunch of beers. I mean, you could be out thousands upon thousands more dollars than just the value of that grain itself. And so, fortunate to have the traceability inside Ollie, it's really easy to find that out by using lot tracking, so you can see exactly all the beers that went into where they are if they've already kind of been sent out to accounts or in the warehouses. But get that bottom line figure of, okay, yes, the grain, it costs us this much to buy it, so that we definitely need to be reimbursed that much. But we also put it in these, they're in these 500 kegs, or and each one of those costs us this much to package. Again, whatever the case may be. So our customers are successfully able to do that, and I think they got like 6 free silos of grain, so it worked out for them. Again, still a headache of going and dealing with that, but not as much as it could have been. They knew right where all those kegs were, could easily go pull them back if they needed to, if they were still in the warehouse, not to let them leave, but then still be recouped for the damages, and not have that be a day and a half spent digging through individual batches and invoices and brew logs and all this stuff. It's just in one single place. Cool. Where did all of this grain go? Aha, here are all the beers. Perfect. That's what I need to focus on. So that was again a horror story that was not as horrible as it could have been, thanks to some technology swooping in there. Very similar case study from another customer of ours, where they just put the wrong canned on date on the bottom of a bunch of cans. This one was less of a headache, but still annoying. They just got to flip the year. It was like one of the first canning runs they did in the new year, so they still had 2022 on the bottom of the cans, but it should have been 2023. But because they were able to quickly see all the cans that were affected, and then the distributors that those cans went out to, instead of sending an embarrassing email to all their distributors saying, hey, if you have cans that say this on the bottom, email me back, I'll come visit you. And then you're dealing with 10 different people emailing you whenever they feel like it, whenever they get to looking at those things. And now you're driving around town, around a whole state, trying to solve this problem. They were able to quickly see, okay, they only went to these 2 distributors, so I don't even need to worry about the other 8, and I can just go have a conversation with them, and in half a day's work, figure this out, instead of it being a prolonged kind of week-long experience of being Sherlock Holmes and trying to figure out where these cans went. So you're not out of compliance. Didn't have to worry about it. So again, it's again, technology, software. When it's working correctly, it can take situations that are, want to make you pull your hair out, and maybe you pull a little less hair out there, and allows you to be action based. So often, and I think this is a big takeaway, when something bad happens, a lot of the times the anxiety, the frustration, the anger comes from the feeling of, I don't have an ability to fix this or help this. I kind of feel helpless. And so that's where you can get very frustrated in those situations. When you have a system that kind of shows you step by step, all right, we have a plan here. You can take action and do these steps, and get the answers you're looking for pretty quickly. Now you're not kind of freaking out in an anxiety spiral. You're looking forward and taking action to solve the problem, and then move on with your day. And again, knowing those steps are there, or those features are there in the future, and not have to stress about it as much.
Awesome. Thanks, Harrison. So kind of wrapping things up, there's so many options out there. What are some things that we can think about to know what's best for me? A few different things to consider. Does it integrate with the tech that you need? I know we said earlier, be wary of too many integrations, and this is true, but there's some awesome different pieces of software that do talk to each other, really, that could be key to saving you time and energy, like accounting and tax systems, ordering platforms, just to name a few. In my opinion, personally, be wary of some POS integrations, but we're happy to discuss that offline and go through all the different pros and cons of that as well. does the company, do they help you set it up? Do they train your staff? Harrison touched on this beforehand as well, but this may be obvious, but these systems, they really work best when you know what you're doing. Remember, garbage in and garbage out. Speaking for my team specifically, they are all specialists that come from the industry. They're former breweries, employees, and brewery owners. So they can answer your questions because they've truly done these different things before and know how it affects businesses. Once again, don't go piecemeal. It may seem like a larger lift up front, but getting a full solution set up can help alleviate so many headaches and work stoppages down the line instead of doing parts of it. Avoid that piecemeal approach would be our recommendation. And then finally, get references from breweries similar to your business model. It's no secret. Brewers talk. Take advantage of your peers' experiences, attend conferences, make connections, and do the research before jumping in. Many systems like Ollie, that we have like full YouTube pages built out with all sorts of different featured videos for research purposes. There's so much out there that can be taken advantage of to help you make the best decision. And what might be best for one brewery isn't always best for the next as well. So that's really all that we have scheduled for today. If there's any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll stay on here for another minute or so. Otherwise, our contact details are up on the screen. Happy to have all these different conversations, answer all of your different questions. But thank you so much for your time, and hope you all have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. And again, we'll stay here for a minute or so. If you guys want to type questions out in the comments, we can throw them up on the screen, get them answered. But if you don't feel like doing that and you have questions, or you're watching this later, if you're watching this not live, don't type in any comments. We're not there. But you can email us. Our emails are right there on the screen right now. So obviously love to answer them whenever they pop up. But we'll hang out here for at least another minute in case folks are typing frantically right now.
My picture on that screen is looking very serious. I'm looking professional in that suit. I might need to get that updated here. I'm staring into your soul waiting for these questions.
Well, I look like I own a used airplane factory at a company down in Key West. So we're very yin and yang up there. You're complimentary. That's a great shirt.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and call it there. Once again, please feel free to get in contact with any different questions. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.